No, wait, I have to turn that.
All right. Hey everyone, sorry for the delay. Let's give it a minute or so for everybody to jump on. We got a lot to unwind, a lot we're gonna go over. This is kind of a special show today because of a lot of the stuff that's happening. We've decided we're streaming it to as far and wide as we can. So we're streaming it not only on Substack Live to our Substack community, but also on our show Love Remembers, which is streamed on YouTube. So we're going live on both. So let's give it a few more seconds. Get everybody catch on. In the meantime, I hope everyone's having a great day out there. I know today was a little bit as crazy as it sounds, the news cycle wasn't as crazy. So we didn't have any crazy breaking news to report as far as Donald Trump or his administration. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that we are going to go break into. So I guess when we start off, all right, I want to welcome everybody back to Love Remembers. I want to start today by first of all, I want to thank everybody, a heartfelt thank you to each and every one of you out there. The support you've been receiving has been absolutely incredible. Just yesterday, we were ranked number 8 among Substack's best new writers, and today we've hit number 2 in world politics. And that's just not a number, folks. That's proof that the message is getting out and that the movement is growing. And it's all thanks to every single one of you. To all of my subscribers, I want to personally thank you. And to all of you who restack, pass the word on to friends, and help shine a spotlight on these critical issues, thank you, thank you, thank you. And to all of you, my paid subscribers, I cannot tell you how much your support means. You're not just helping me keep this platform alive, you're helping me protect myself while I expose the truth. Because this is not just a community, this is a movement. And now today, we have a big show for you folks. Joining me is a very special guest, a friend of mine, somebody I deeply respect. Grant Stern. He's the head editor of Occupy Democrats. He's someone who's been following and reporting on money trails, the shadow networks, and criminal ties behind Donald Trump and Russian organized crime for around a decade. And today, what we're going to do for you guys is we're going to connect some very serious dots. We're going to connect the dots between Donald Trump, Stephen Witkoff, and Anatoly Golubchik, a convicted Russian mobster tied directly to major money laundering operations right here in the U.S. We're going to show you how it all links back to Trump Tower, to organized crime, and how these same players now have their hands in our foreign policy, including what's happening in Ukraine right now, Ukraine, Russia, and even Iran. You might have seen yesterday that Stephen Witkoff was reportedly involved in discussions around Trump's so-called Iran plans. But you have to ask yourself, why him? Why a real estate developer with connections to Russian organized crime? Well, maybe that's the point, because if you follow the money and the players behind the scenes, you start to see that it's not Trump pulling the strings. And the people there, it's names like Dmitriev, Kushner. It's people like Witkoff serving as their mouthpieces and middlemen. So today with Grant, we're going to dive deep. We're going to get you into the inside scoop and the kind of truth that the mainstream media is not talking about, won't touch. So before we jump in, I want to again say, please tell a friend, restack, and if you haven't yet considered becoming a paid subscriber, it's what makes this all possible. All right, Grant. Welcome to Love Remembers. I know it's been a crazy weekend, lots of
Wild
stuff going
week.
on, but this is something that the media obviously is talking about tariffs and all kinds of stuff. But the one thing it's not talking about is this. They don't want to. There's no reporting, zero zilch, and we're going to bring it down. So tell us what's happening, brother.
Well, I mean, you said a mouthful. I just want to know what is the difference between the Russian mafia and Donald Trump anyway? Um,
That's a
there's
good
so
question.
much like they're kind of like this and always like stretching the hands out. So yeah, this is rather interesting surfacing of information. Craig Unger is the one who found it. Steve Witkoff was named the envoy from the United States to Russia, right? On behalf of the Donald Trump administration to further their idea of securing a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia, correct?
Yep.
So he's been a real estate developer for decades and decades. I mean, his real estate company's built numerous buildings, 10 Madison. Um, you know, this is like someone who just kind of swims in Donald Trump's fishbowl, right? And the Real Deal New York, the Real Deal is a real estate news website, and the Real Deal reported that Steve Witkoff wrote a letter of recommendation to a condo for a man who was convicted in a $100 million money laundering and illegal gambling ring that was featured in a movie already once called Molly's Game,
Yep.
which was a high-stakes poker game that included celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio and Ben Affleck and them all, run from an apartment in Trump Tower, one floor below Donald Trump's apartment.
Get this, folks. Trump Tower. This is where the game was being played. The people that were running it, the names like Anatoly Golubchik and Taiwanchik Trencher organizations, which we'll get to,
Right.
and has direct links right now to Steve Witkoff, who is currently
The
not
envoy
only
to Russia.
to Russia. Continue, Grant, please.
So the thing is that he wrote a recommendation letter on behalf, or signed the recommendation letter, I should say, on behalf of Anatoly Golubchik, who was convicted of racketeering along with 15 others, including a multi-millionaire art dealer. As you said, his partner Vadim Trincher, the card shark, and a Chase Bank branch manager who facilitated the money laundering, right? And they were all convicted. They all pled guilty, and he served a 5-year sentence. I think he served about 4 years.
There's also another name I just want to throw in there that was part of that group. His name was Almazan Tokhonov. They call him Taiwanchik.
Right.
And why it's
interesting? He's the boss.
He's the
he
boss.
Was indicted, but never brought to justice.
But important, he's still on the wanted list. He's still on the United States wanted list
for that crime.
Not only for that crime, but also if you recall, he was famous for. He's the one that fixed the Olympics back when the Canadian, and important because that says how close he is to Putin. So we're connecting the dots so people understand. This is direct link to Putin fixing the Russian Olympics for Russians to win the gold medal, running poker games inside of Trump
Doesn't get
Tower.
more Putin-y than fixing the Olympics, does it?
Exactly. So go ahead, continue, Brad.
So I mean, his boss, Tokatunov, comes into the story a little bit later. We're almost there too. So so anyway, Witkoff writes a letter for him to buy a $5 or $6 million apartment on the Upper East Side. And then, of course, Golubchik gets, convicted. He has to forfeit the apartment. The Real Deal reports on it. And Witkoff said at the time, a friend recommended the Russian mobster.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
And who could this friend be? Now, in all fairness, it may not have been Donald Trump. A name that people probably haven't heard for a long time, but someone who could very likely be that friend would be Felix Sater, who was Donald Trump's agent, a part of the Trump organization, the man who sold the Trump brand name for the better part of a decade, while he concealed a felony scheme that he committed with the 5 families of New York and the Russian mob.
Did his card say personal assistant to Donald Trump or something like that?
Felix Sater. He was
Felix Sater, right? I know
Trump.
Felix very well. I grew up with Felix. I worked with his dad. I mean,
I've reported on Felix. I've had discussions with his lawyer. His lawyer wrote me a letter, said, remove that post or we will taking legal action. I declined. And I've even talked with Felix Sater. I actually spoke with Felix on Clubhouse a couple of years back. And that is quite the interesting recording. We should listen to it sometime.
I mean, we should, you know what, for those of you who don't, I grew up with Felix back in Brooklyn. Know his father, him very well, done business. I did lots of stories about, when Felix got arrested, Felix ran to Russia, Felix then became an informant. A lot of people don't know that Felix handler in the United States was Andrew Weissman.
Yes, that's right.
Andrew Weissman, and so a lot of the story, all of the there's a lot of moving parts, and a lot of that comes in.
Well, how about this? Who was his boss in the Eastern District of New York, EDNY's federal prosecutor's office? Who was the U.S. attorney during much of this time when Weissman was handling Sater?
Remind me.
Loretta Lynch.
Loretta Lynch, exactly. That's right.
So quite the interesting group of characters, very well-known folks. And I mean, without taking too much of a Felix Sater detour here, there's a big controversy, and I wrote a series of articles about it, that they violated the Crime Victims' Rights Act by hiding Felix Sater's conviction and his sentencing to avoid the crime victims restoration, whatever, restitution act. So Sater, I mean, maybe he's the friend. Maybe Donald Trump is the friend. I mean, we're thinking about people that that Witkoff knows. We don't know who,
One of the things that's very upsetting, and this is what is important, and I'm glad you're breaking it up, is that how come the media is not asking Witkoff who was that friend? Who was the
well,
friend at the
this
time?
is all just coming out. So I think that
Right,
it's going to
exactly,
happen
because
soon enough. Somebody's going to ask it at some point. Yeah.
because the media is not talking about it. We're breaking it here for you guys first, and when the media starts talking about it, you'll already have known who's that friend, because that's the question we need to find out: is who was that friend you wrote that letter for, Steve Witkoff?
Who's the friend? I mean, that's a great mystery, but it's funny because I saw Stephen Witkoff come through the local news here in Miami, very hyper local, like local business news. I mean, Lev, how many publications do you subscribe to, like news journals and newspapers and
Not too
websites and
many.
stuff? Not too many.
Not too many. No, I've been, dealing with social media lately.
I mean, I subscribe to like the Miami Herald and the Tampa Bay Times and Detroit Free Press and Detroit News and the Philly Inquirer and all these random places, right? But one that I've had forever is the South Florida Business Journal because, business stuff.
Right, South Florida.
My home. And Steve Witkoff came through the South Florida Business Journal because he's taking over a multi-billion-dollar project on Miami Beach. And he's taking it over because he got an $85 million loan from Chase. And he's partnering as well. So he's taking the old developers as his partners with the Blavatnik family of Access Industries. Remember that?
Nice. The Blavatnik family. This is getting even more interesting.
Yes, Len Blavatnik attended Harvard, got his MBA there, became an American citizen, became a British citizen. And it's interesting because Len Blavatnik's representatives, when we were reporting on him in past years, spent a lot of time, invested a lot of time in trying to make sure that everybody knew he wasn't Russian. But I found like his old biographies on his own website.
He's definitely
he's Russian.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
He claims to be Ukrainian. Maybe he's from Ukraine.
Well, it was the Soviet Union back then. It's
exactly.
Like when I was there. That's why
right,
Ukraine, Russia was the same thing.
But yeah, well, you kinda yes, as you know, but all the same. It's just he was very upset about being called a Russian oligarch, Mr. Blavatnik. And he bought Warner Music. I mean, he is an American citizen, but he earned $7 billion from an oil deal with Putin. And someone, I think it was the PolitiFact folks in Wisconsin who said, well, he's not pro-Putin. I'm like, come on, man. Like, Vladimir Putin doesn't just stroke everybody's $7 billion checks for the oil company. He sold them for $300,000,
Well, just think about it. Let's stop for a second. Let's talk about, before we get into some other names and some other people. Let's talk about Steve Witkoff
and Witkoff.
And Steve Witkoff, yeah, and Golubchik. So first of all, let's talk about Steve Witkoff. I mean, here we have a real estate developer that really has zero experience that we know of, or that anybody has reported on in international dealings, except for building maybe a building on Miami Beach or New York or somewhere like that. And here he is with his first job, being announced as special envoy to the Middle East.
Right.
While he's a special envoy to the Middle East, he's being sent over now to Russia to meet with Vladimir Putin. Everybody was like, why is this guy, he's the Middle East envoy, why is he going to Russia? What is he doing?
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to say this, Lev, in the
And by the way,
I
agree with you. You need an org chart. We know, and you know what? For my Substack subscribers, I'm going to put something together and try to do some sort of org chart for you guys to be able to fit.
Yeah, we need like a pin board for this chat.
Pin board, because yes, the names and that. But we're going to break it down. We're going to take our time, and then
but check this out. So
yeah.
Lev, I mean, I hate to break this to you, but Steve Witkoff has a whole lot more money than you do, so that's why he got chosen. Otherwise, Donald Trump might have called you again. I mean, I think you did a bang-up job as an envoy, but they didn't give you the title. What's wrong with Trump? He should have really thought this thing through. I I mean, that's what's going on here, as you well know. All the same shit that he, crazy stuff that he was asking you to do. He's just having Witkoff carry the water right in front of everybody because who cares, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the difference, and I keep saying it. I mean, back then it was a shadow diplomacy run by Giuliani with me and others involved in it, and that's why I wrote the book Shadow Diplomacy because
Now it's
that's
just a
what he.
black joke on American diplomacy.
Yeah, and he back then he tried. He didn't want Bill Barr. There was others in there, even though I don't like him, I don't agree with them. They're as crooked as as Donald Trump, but they were not on the same side. They were still, So he tried to go around them. Today he has all the loyalists to play. He doesn't need to, and that's why you got a guy like Steve Witkoff running around with a cell phone on the signal in Moscow, in group chats over here, talking about how we're bombing the Middle East, the Houthis, while he's the special envoy to the Middle East. Then comes back after his meeting with Putin, goes on Fox and talks about how Iran now, might have some sort of nuclear weapons, and then today, after getting his ass handed to him by Trump, comes back on and says, no, we're going to have no what's it called. So this guy is all over the place. You would think that. If you take a look from the outside, you say, like, he's overmatched. But I think there's a reason why Trump sent him there. I think the relationships are deeper and wider because if you remember going back, and Grant, you reported a lot of this back then when the doors opened up between the former Soviet Union and Russia. I mean, all this oligarchy money had flooded basically into real estate. And into the United States. I mean, these from cash deals to buying up as much as they could. That's how they were laundering and washing all this money for Putin, basically. I mean, for the Russian oligarchy. So, I mean, you're talking about now you have guys that are in real estate, not only Trump, but now you have Witkoff, which probably might be even bigger in real estate. Magna, I spoke to Michael.
It's not even that they were laundering it in there. They were just sending it there for safekeeping. Think of it this way, right? This real estate professor at Florida International University, it told me something kind of enlightening one time. He said at a conference. I mean, everybody, but he said that South Florida's real estate was an export market. The condo stays here, but we're exporting the titles of these things all over as if it's like a stock market. And for a lot of borrowers or buyers, they're just parking their money here to keep it safe. And as a currency play more than anything else. They don't even care if it goes down in value 50%. So it creates a weird market where you're exporting the title of your real estate all over the world. And that's what these guys are doing with the Russian buyers. The Russian buyers wanted to put their money into a strong legal jurisdiction outside the reach of Russia. They wanted to hedge against the ruble losing value because, let's face it, unless you're the euro, the dollar, the yen, the yuan, a few other currencies. The currencies are very subject to fluctuation, change, and currency risk is a big deal. So if you're parked in rubles, you want to be in dollars. I mean, buying that $1 million apartment, even if it's worth $500,000 in 5 years, it might be worth double the price in rubles when you cash it in. So,
oh, absolutely, I agree with you. 100%.
Big market and just
and that was a huge
flight capital, safety capital. And America's status is the biggest tax haven in the world, which people don't realize. Foreign income is not taxed here, and we don't recognize other foreign tax jurisdiction anything. We're a big haven for flight capital. I mean, we suck the capital right out of countries that are less stable for that reason. At least we have. With the political instability we have now, America's status in that regard is extremely threatened. That's why Donald Trump blinked on tariffs, not because of the stock market, not because of the advisors, not because of people paying him, but when he saw that the price of bonds,
yep,
right, was dropping, the interest rates were rising at the same time as the stock market was crashing, he put two and two together and realized, okay, if I let this go a couple more weeks, there's not going to be an economy left. I mean, somebody asked me, what do I tell my neighbors? This is like a week and a half ago, like 7 trading days ago.
Yes, the bond market will suffer, absolutely.
In other words, maybe this is about one, let's say in Donald Trump news cycle years, it's about 3 of them. She said, what do I tell my MAGA friends who are convinced that tariffs are going to save them from everything? And I said, just let them know that if the stock market has about 20 more days like this in a row, we won't have a stock market left.
Oh, absolutely. People don't understand. And you know, and it's funny because I reported on it. I said in my Substack letter to all my subscribers when I told them about that Donald Trump is going to use this spike in the market. Not all, there's a lot of reasons it was done, not only for I believe market manipulation and other people's getting rich. Also, it was a message. It was a tool that he used. Even a couple like yesterday in the Oval, he was sitting there and said, "We had the biggest spike in the history of the stock market," trying to bullshit, excuse me for my language, to the people and the public and to the American people out there saying that, oh, everything is
Well,
great. Meanwhile, the real lost it.
Lev, isn't there one talent that Donald Trump's acolytes have to have over all others? And that talent is that they have to be able to look the American people in the eye and tell them it's raining while they're pissing on their legs. That's it.
100%. So, Grant, I know we've spoken about these guys, and
well, let me keep talking about Golubchik, because Golubchik and Trencher have quite the interesting story. They were arrested in 2013, in April of 2013, right? And then like a few weeks later, and by the way, when they went to pop Trencher, when they went to arrest Trencher, I think it was in Trump Tower. I'm pretty sure that he ran and went to the Taj Mahal. It was either he went from the Taj Mahal to Trump Tower, or Trump Tower to Taj Mahal. But I remember that being kind of a funny part of the whole thing. But when they went to arrest, they arrested Trencher. And then like within a few weeks, Donald Trump hosted the Miss Universe pageant in Moscow. You know, the one with all the allegations that were disproven about the P tape, but everybody did believe a P tape existed that was fake, and they were all trying to chase it down.
I always said there was, I always told you there was no P tape, Grant.
No P tape, but everybody thought there was, and that's from the Mueller report. I mean, Michael Cohen told me it's a real fake P tape. Everybody believed existed that didn't exist. Got that? So at that particular Miss Universe Moscow, the very infamous one, that was where their boss, Golubchik and Trencher's boss, Taiwan chick, attended. I mean, here's this man who has been indicted in the United States only a few weeks earlier as the head of a major international money laundering crime ring, extortion ring, racketeering, and he's at Donald Trump's event.
Yeah.
Pretty wild, So, I mean, it's one of these things like, who knows what these guys know, but certainly there's a lot of like little dots on the chart that say they're all kind of friendly there. And the whole thing with Witkoff happened a couple of years before Golubchik got popped. And since then, I mean, Trencher, I don't know what he's doing, but Golubchik lives in Sunny Isles Beach, Florida.
Yeah.
In a very nice condo, by the way. I have it on good authority. It's a very nice condo. And he goes to the social club occasionally. He's neighbors with fine individuals, let me tell you. But yeah, so that's, I mean, it's just, when you think about it, like, this is a very direct tie to Russian organized crime.
It doesn't get any more closer than that.
Right. It doesn't get too much close. I mean, this guy is only one step removed from one of the bosses of organized crime, like the ultimate bosses of organized crime.
Yeah, that I met back in the day, back in the 90s, when it's still right before the fall, Taiwan Chicken, and when he wasn't the boss of bosses, when he was just regular, when they were all regular criminals growing up in the world before Putin took over and became in charge and gave them all the power of the oligarchy and transformed them, because before that they were criminals. Gangsters, all kinds of stuff like that. And then when Putin,
let's just make sure everybody knows, if you're really into this, if this is like your thing, we're talking about Taiwan chick, not Hapon chick.
Yeah, now Yapon chick, right? Which will be well. One of the things I see a lot of you are asking, and I understand confusing
Who's Hapon chick?
Names.
They're all asking.
Yeah. Everybody's asking names, org chart. I promise you later today, what I'm going to do is, once we're done with this, is I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write a full outlined Substack for all of you out there to break down. I'll try to put together a little org chart, try to put a little bit of the names so you can connect the dots about what we're talking about, what Grant has explained to you. So this way, as the news starts breaking and you start watching it, you'll be able to know what's going on and know who the players are. So definitely I'll put that together tonight for you guys.
And what I would also say is that Wendy Siegelman has done some incredible work with these kind of org charts, making sense of all the different corporate shells. And, this whole group of folks has some, connections between them, and like guys like Andy Kuchma, AKA Andrei Artemenko, a fellow who hired Rudy Giuliani, who registered himself as a foreign agent, right? Because he was an Ukrainian citizen. Didn't he
The
take
peace
Canadian
plan. He's the one that
citizenship?
brought the peace plan
He
to
brought the
John Jr. To
Backchannel
John
peace
Jr.
plan to Michael Cohen, right? And Michael
Michael.
Cohen posted a picture of this thing, and I think it says like Putin approved on it. Basically, I'm not remembering all
Just
of
think
this,
about
but it
this,
said
folks. This
from
is like
Surkov.
telenovela. It's like
Yes.
telenovela. It's like you can't make this up. I mean, it just goes around in circle. I mean, this is the same like squad. That it came from the 90s to 2000 to 2000. Now we're in 2025, and all of these people have graduated now to basically run countries and run our country, and that's the crazy part. Insane, Grant. Go ahead, brother.
I mean, it just shows you how well qualified. I think, look, honestly, Lev, I hate to tell you this. Witkoff is so much more well qualified than you, because he's really connected to the big high bosses in a way that you never were. And I'm sorry, Lev. I mean, you didn't have the big boss connections. You missed out. You missed out.
It's
It was
crazy.
a nice try, though. It was a nice try.
But you know what, Grant? I'll tell you. Let's everybody take Steve Witkoff and his ties and put them aside for a second, because we're going to go into another couple of people, and then we're going to try to connect the dots and tie them all together to what's happening right now in the Russia-Ukraine conflict that you're not hearing on the media, that you're not seeing, that nobody's talking about, except for just recently you might have saw the Sunday Palm bombings, Trump saying it was a mistake. We're going to get into crazy, can't believe it. So the name I've been trying to keep telling everybody out there that I want everybody here is called a gentleman by the name of Dmitriev. Andrei Dmitriev. Who is Andrei Dmitriev? Let's discuss it. He's the head of the Russian Sovereign Wealth Fund, with extremely
You mean
close ties.
Kirill Dmitriev?
Kirill, I'm sorry. I mean, Andrei Kirill.
When you said Andrei, I was like,
because you said Andrei Kuchma. You said Andrei Kuchma, and it got stuck. Kuchma
if
got.
it makes you feel any better, I have a
important.
remarkable history with Mr. Dmitriev and the Russia Direct Investment Fund. I really yes, their lawyers and PR people reached out to me and corrected my article and fact checked every single thing when I said that he does corrupt deals and all this stuff. They're like, yeah, you don't have to. Yeah, that's fine.
Wow, I didn't even know that, Grant. So I can't wait to give us.
I have to revive that article. I think it's on my authory page, but I got to find that one for you, because that's a ridiculous article. That's one of my all-time favorites. I mean,
well, this is an important name, and that's why I want to fill our.
Let me tell you a little bit about him. Wait,
go ahead.
Let me tell everybody.
Yeah, go ahead,
so,
please.
I mean, he graduated with a Stanford MBA. He's very educated. He didn't come from like a family, like he's. He earned his place.
He was born in Kiev, Ukraine. He was born in Ukraine.
And then his wife became friends with Putin's daughter.
Best friends.
And so besties, right? And so that kind of helped make his star rise. And this was the guy who flew to the Seychelles Islands back in 2016 after Trump was elected, before the inauguration, which, by the way, I think is like a 16-hour trip, even from over there, a 12-hour trip. It is not a short hop. To have a meeting with Eric Prince, Kirill Dmitriev. So he's quite the player.
And don't forget, between him and Kushner, the private meetings they had and the back-channel conversation they met in Saudi Arabia back in 2017. Since 2017, they've been very close.
That's right.
And so there's these are the main players. This is, folks, who is running the show right now, not Donald Trump. These are the people behind the scenes that are actually making the plans, making the moves to dissect Ukraine up, to basically destroy a sovereign country and to genocide the people there, because that's what is happening.
Well, there's another guy that the Wall Street Journal reported on, who I had heard about, but I hadn't seen a picture, and he's certainly been surfaced a lot more today than he was in the past, which is a man named Sergei Baseda. He's not the head of the FSB, which is Putin's internal and near abroad security service, basically the successor to the KGB's third directorate. He's not the head, but he's the head of basically the information section. And this guy Baseda actually has direct links with Putin, the Wall Street Journal did a huge expose on him and his role, not only in the recent talks with the Trump
Yes, Betsy
administration,
DeVos is there.
but he was the point man in the big prisoner swap that the Biden administration pulled off last year, or actually a couple of prisoner swaps. So he's a real key guy who's kind of surfacing for the first time. That's a very interesting development that they would, bring him up there, because this guy strikes me as one of those like very important career service folks that just like in the Trump circle, the ones that stay anonymous stay forever. And it's the same with Putin. So why is he suddenly going from kind of semi-anonymous to a name? Nobody knows.
Oh, absolutely. And folks, now you're starting to understand, because if you go back a few weeks, even a month ago, when the Ukrainians, when Zelensky came out and started making comments saying that Russia is in Trump's ear, that Trump is talking Russian talking points, this is where it was coming from. Steve Witkoff. A lot of you didn't understand back then. A lot of you didn't connect the dots and didn't understand, because he was not even officially the Russian envoy at the time. It was, I think, Kellogg at the time, or to Ukraine, I'm sorry, not to Russia. I think he was official. His only title was the Middle East. So nobody even understood why he was there and what he was doing there, and meeting with Dmitriev in the meantime. Also, don't forget that
Dmitriev, he was the envoy to the Middle East and going to these meetings about Ukraine in Saudi Arabia. Hey, there you go.
Correct.
It's kind of like
correct.
And then all of a sudden he turned up in Moscow, right?
Right. And Dmitriev, Kirill, was here in Washington, D.C. just a few weeks ago in the Oval, me bringing the plan, basically, that we discussed, that broke over the weekend, where they were trying to take over basically all 4 regions of Ukraine where they are right now. So it's incredible to see how the media here, though,
the Backchannel plan has come such a long way, don't you think? Now you just send the Backchannel guy, instead of going to the Seychelles to meet with the guy who has to meet with the guy that meets with the guy. Now you just send the guy who's going to the Seychelles right to the front door of the White House.
I mean, I had to fly to Vienna to meet with the guy, to meet in Vienna, then to pass the message over to Russia, and then go to Ukraine. That's how we did back then.
Still one of my favorite Billy Joel songs, by the way.
But now, I mean, you just fly, get on a plane, go to Moscow, meet with Vladimir, and chop it up, and it's incredible. But with all of that said, I just want to say a little. The great thing about all of this is that it's not the same Ukraine, not the same Vladimir Zelensky, and not the same EU. Donald Trump, with his crazy antics and with his sociopathic and narcissistic ways of trying to do it, by destroying the relationships and pushing them into a corner. It's like you say, don't put a rat into a corner, might bite. Jump at you and stuff. They have these sayings.
Everything Donald Trump does, he's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to smash this glass table. You say, but it's cracked now. He says, well, it's not broken yet, is it?
and then he's the only one that could fix it. And then when he can't fix it, he blames everybody around except for himself.
And then Democrats are
he doesn't know these people. He doesn't know. It's the same routine.
Right.
It's
and
incredible.
Then Democrats will need 4 years to fix it. And by the 4th year, when everything is fixed, Republicans will have convinced everybody that it's terrible and it's all Biden's fault. The end. I mean, no matter who's in office, that's the brilliant part. It's going to be Hillary Clinton's fault for the rest of our natural lives. We're going to be 85 years old with Republicans complaining about Hillary Clinton.
With Trump, it'll always be Biden. I could promise you that. I think on his deathbed, Trump will be talking about how Biden screwed him up, because he is so obsessed. I even remember back in 2019, his biggest fear was Joe Biden. Even though Joe Biden did, I don't even think he announced at the time yet. I don't think, or if he does, he was way below. I mean, he wasn't even projected. And he still was so obsessed to making sure the only person he couldn't possibly lose to, I remember them talking, was Joe Biden. And then he lost to Joe Biden.
and you know what? Let's be real here. He would have lost to Joe Biden again too. He would have.
Oh, I think so also. I agree with you. I think, that's something else.
I think Joe Biden picks up enough of those swing voters in those key states. I mean, we're talking about 3 states, that he needed to win. And I mean, I'm sorry. Politics is about branding. And the big problem with Harris was that she was still introducing herself to the United States people a week before the election. And that's just a fact. That's not her fault. She didn't do anything wrong. But it's just
It was no, you know who did something wrong? Who let the people down? Not the Democratic voters, not the people that went out there and stood there and voted their part, but the hierarchy that did all of that shit that they put together by pulling him off the ticket, putting her on the ticket, going behind the scenes, all the diversity 2 months prior to the election. I mean, they basically handed the elections to Donald Trump, and then everybody disappeared and went into hiding, and then left it all for us to unravel and sit here and fight against. I mean, and the sad part, Grant, that I keep bringing up and talking about, where are the guardrails? I mean, these people obviously, and
okay.
these
Listen,
people,
man, the
but these
guardrails are
people
gone, and they
obviously,
were gone before this
but
election, and
listen,
nobody
but listen,
conveyed that.
no, but listen, no, but Grant, listen, we the people trust in our elected officials to protect us. They obviously understood who Donald Trump was. They understood the power that they were giving him, and they basically, I don't know, just left it to him and for us to deal with. So, I mean, look, that's for maybe another day, another conversation,
Yeah,
but
it's a much
yeah,
longer conversation. But
much
Lev,
longer
I'll leave it
conversation.
at this: never bet against the power of stupidity.
Oh, I agree with you. And never bet against the truth also, because the truth will prevail, especially when we got the receipts. And guys, listen, for Grant, thank you so much for coming on and giving us the rundown. I know me and you are going to be working on some things behind the scenes to come up with maybe a much deeper dive in this stuff because the media is not going to report it. And by the time they report it, they're going to water it down, wash it down, and try to make it seem like it's no big deal. But we're going to bring you the facts because there's much more to it. We have people in Russia, we have people in Ukraine, we have people all over the place, friends and associates that are working and getting us the news because we want to bring it to you, and because it's your subscriptions and it's your support and that keeps us going and keeps us making sure that we're able to fight this tyrant. So I want to thank everyone for the support. Please go support Grant Stern, subscribe to all the independent journals, because also keep in mind, a lot of you know Aaron Parnas, my son. He's one of the top independent journalists, not only on Substack, but all over TikTok. The Midas guys, another group of great guys that do, Occupy Democrat. These are groups out there that right now are being targeted by Donald Trump. My sources are telling me that some of the things that are happening inside, that he's literally talking to people inside his administration to not only go after the CBSs of the world and the big networks, but to go after, independent journalists, whistleblowers, people, not only that report the news, but especially people like myself that come out there and try to give you the inside scoop or tell you the stuff that actually happened and bring the receipts, because he doesn't want you to see it. And that's what he's doing. And remember, I'm not a free guy. I'm still under DOJ, Donald Trump's DOJ. I sit here under supervised release, but I do it because of your support and because of your subscriptions and because of you. It's important for us to say our democracy. So please support Grant, support everybody out there. And if you can, your paid subscription mean everything to us because it keeps us going. And I'm going to thank you. And today, I promise you, I'm going to put together the Substack letter to connect the dots of everything we spoke about today and try to get you more in tune, and then stay for the next Love Remembers, because we're here for you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.